Here is everything Trump did this week. Number 1, he finally released the Epstein files. Here they are. Very descriptive, aren't they? 80% of the files released were completely redacted. All of the names of assailants were blacked out. Any photos that contain Trump went unreleased. And the fucking documents look like this. What am I supposed to do with this? This looks like I'm reading the straight pride flag. 1 month ago, Congress forced Trump to release any and all files relating to the Epstein investigation. Every single one. And we weren't blindsided here, okay? People were expecting this to happen. We all know the government has the ability to pretty much classify anything they want. Important people that visited Epstein Island, redacted. Torture techniques used after 9/11 that we don't want people to know about, redacted. Where I was on July 13th, 2024 at 6:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, also fucking redacted. So under previous law, there was nothing stopping these files from looking like this. But now it's different, because in the law to release these files passed by Congress, they specifically say that nothing can be withheld in order to save someone's reputation. They can only redact stuff if it's to protect the victims or if there's nudity or something like that. But Fox News, clock that for a second, Fox fucking News learned that the same redaction standards were applied to government officials and exposed individuals. Not only that, but the files we did have released are nowhere near the actual full extent of the Epstein files. According to a previous DOJ memo, they have over 300 gigabytes of this stuff sitting somewhere. And Friday's release of the Epstein files was only 2.5 gigabytes large. That is absolutely nothing. They gave us less than 1% of the actual Epstein file. The act called for all files to be released, which means Trump's DOJ is currently in violation of the law. But here's where things get even crazier. Some of the files he did release were later taken down. According to NPR, more than a dozen files that were released on Friday are no longer available from the DOJ website. A lot of it was because of nudity or because they forgot to redact some victims' information. But one photo, number 468, has none of that. It's just a picture of a desk with a bunch of photos. Why would they take this down? Well, if you look at this photo in the drawer here, you will find the face of Donald J. Trump. They took down the only photo of him in the entire Epstein release. It's no longer available. 468 is literally just missing. Like, do you guys need any more proof that this guy is cleansing the files of his name? We're seeing it before our eyes. It's no longer just speculation. The mental gymnastics people do in order to convince themselves that Trump isn't in these files is just insane. Most of the photos that were released are just of Bill Clinton. Bro was on that plane every single day, apparently. Like, the DOJ clearly packaged as many photos of Clinton in as they could to try and spin this on Democrats. But the problem is nobody really liked Bill Clinton anyway. We've known he a freak for a long time. And even then, we don't worship him like a fucking deity sent to us from God so we can blow up more Venezuelan fishing boats. Like, they even redacted images of Michael Jackson's kids, who are obviously fully adults now, in an effort to make them look like victims. They're clearly just trying to pin this all on Bill Clinton. Like, he clearly did go to the island. I'm not gonna defend that. Bill's guilty as anyone here. But Trump is clearly also in these files. And your strategy of pinning it on the Democrats doesn't work when you are actively cleansing them of any mention of Donald Trump, as well as keeping 99% of them hostage. If you keep this up, I'm gonna redact my goddamn tax form next year. And then we're gonna find out how you like it. Number 3, he mocked the death of actor and director Rob Reiner. So I don't want to be too woke here, but this was fucking insane, dude. Rob Reiner was murdered in his house last week by his son. Son slimed him out, no idea why. And Trump immediately tweeted about it, saying that he died from Trump derangement syndrome, because apparently this guy was anti-Trump or something. A few weeks ago, he also called for Democrats in Congress to be hung. And after berating Marjorie Taylor Greene constantly for a week, she was forced to retire because of the hundreds of death threats she was now receiving because of it. So tell me why they think the Democrats are the ones heating up the rhetoric. Like, it seems to just be one guy from what I can tell. Marjorie Taylor Greene was hated, despised by people on the left for like 4 years. And all it took was 1 week for her to be hated by Trump and the right for her to resign from Congress over it. So why are they telling us that the liberals are doing all of this shit? Why are they simultaneously a group of woke crybaby sissies who can't do anything, but also violent Antifa, Hamas, extremist terrorists that are like bringing down our country? Like, which is it? You have to at least be consistent with how you brand us, dude. Number 4, he designated fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. A weapon of mass destruction is a nuke or like a chemical weapon or something like that. Like, remember when George Bush said Iraq had WMDs and then they just turned out not to? He was talking about a nuke, or like a chemical weapon. He wasn't talking about a substance. Declaring a substance to be a WMD is like middle school role play shit. I get that he's trying to make like a statement about the danger of these drugs, but it's just like, I don't know, it gives off the same energy as a Democrat writing a strongly worded letter about something. Like, why are you doing all this performative shit? Just like solve the problem if you care about it that much. It's lame as fuck. Number 5, he hired 1,000 AI engineers to work in the government. These engineers are going to do a lot of different things, but they are also going to work with companies like OpenAI, Oracle, and Palantir. That's always a good thing to hear. This initiative is being led by a guy named David Sachs, and if you know me, you know I fucking hate David Sachs. He's Trump's AI and crypto czar, the top AI official in the country. And of the 708 tech investments he has 449 that are involved in AI, which is a little bit of a fucking conflict of interest. There's usually a law to stop people like that from getting positions of power, but Sachs has received White House ethics waivers, which are just memos that the White House can sign making you exempt from all of those laws, apparently. Sachs has gotten 2 of them. While he has been in the White House, he has brokered deals directly for AI companies like Nvidia. One of them was to sell 500,000 of their chips directly to the United Arab Emirates, which is a huge breach of national security, but Nvidia made about $200 billion from it, so I guess it's okay. This deal also benefited Trump and his sons, allowing their investment to be transferred using World Liberty Financial, which is a service owned by the Trump family, as well as the family of his envoy to the Middle East. He's convinced Trump to lift export restrictions for Nvidia. Like, he literally went to the Oval Office with the CEO of Nvidia with him and like pleaded Trump to take these export restrictions off. It's actually insane, dude. He is just a direct representative for big AI business in the White House. And his past isn't that different. He was an early investor in Palantir. He was a part of the PayPal mafia along with Peter Thiel. He donated $1 million to JD Vance's Senate campaign right alongside Thiel. Like, he is by all means one of these techno oligarchs that everyone's talking about. So with all that in mind, it's no wonder that he's the one behind this initiative, getting US government employees to work directly with Palantir and Oracle, okay? They're merging, okay? Do you see what's happening? These tech companies are slowly but surely becoming one with the government. Like, the US bought a 10% stake in the chipmaker Intel earlier this year. For the government to own 10% of a private company is insane. And a few months later, Intel literally appointed a Trump economic advisor as their head of government affairs. Someone is both working in the Trump White House and helping Intel lobby the government at the same time. It's happening slowly, but it's happening. These tech companies have more and more and more influence over our government, and I promise you that is not going to be a good thing for you or me. Number 6, he added 7 more countries to his travel ban list. So in June, he banned people from 12 countries from ever visiting the US. These are countries he deems to be third world. Tampa, Florida was notably excluded from that list, but now he has just added 7 more. So if you're from any of these countries, you can no longer get into the US by pretty much any means. Some notable exclusions include people with a Palestinian passport. They can no longer enter the country, so that's great. As well as people from Syria, which is a complete 180 from what he was trying to do before. Trump has been trying really, really hard to help Syria, okay? He's lifted almost all US sanctions on them. He's vowed to do whatever he can to help their country. He invited the leader of Syria into the Oval Office. You remember they had that clip of him trying on the cologne and Trump asking how many wives he had. Like, it's funny because this guy was literally a former Al-Qaeda member. Okay, he was a former member of the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda. And now he is sitting in the Oval Office joking around with cologne with Trump. George W. Bush was overjoyed at that, I'm sure. And I'm not against giving countries a second chance, okay? I'm just trying to illustrate that the switch up is absolutely insane. And it's all because of 2 US soldiers that were killed in their country. Syria's goal right now is to convince everyone that they're a real country and that they have control over it. And when stuff like this happens, it really doesn't help their case. So the travel ban was probably in response to that. As for the travel ban in general, this is obviously bad for us. A lot of the visas canceled were student visas or teacher visas. We benefit greatly from people wanting to come to the US to share their knowledge. It's what makes the US so powerful research and technology wise. So banning travel from all of those places is just gonna make them want to go somewhere else, like Europe or China. Okay. Number 7, he ordered a blockade of all oil tankers heading into Venezuela. Okay. So this is big. Over the past few months, Trump has been beating the shit out of Venezuela. He's moved aircraft carriers there. He's flown fighter jets over it. He imposed a no-fly zone over the country. And last week, he seized one of their oil tankers and stole all of the oil on it. A perfect metaphor for American values. And right now, he has invoked a blockade of all oil heading into the country. Why is he doing this? Because he wants their leader, Maduro, out of power. Why does he want Maduro out of power? So that he can get to that sweet, sweet oil, baby. Venezuela is sitting on the largest proven reserves of oil in the the world. And if Trump could get Maduro out of power and someone else in power, like the opposition leader, she might be likely to denationalize the oil industry there more, which is what stops many US companies from coming in and getting the oil. But why do we even want Venezuelan oil, okay? It's heavy, it's dense, it's useless. Well, actually, heavy and dense oil is like extremely fucking useful. First of all, it's oil. We like all oil. It's the United States of America, okay, please. And second, heavy oil is used in fuel for large ships, which is how we transport everything across the globe. And it's used in energy for power plants, which is like Trump's whole thing. Those power plants generate electricity, which Trump is desperate to make cheaper. Their oil is also an alternative to Russian oil, which has been sanctioned heavily since they invaded Ukraine. It's also nice to have more control in our hemisphere. There's a ton of reasons the government would do this. But I promise you, fentanyl is not one of them. They are trying to fearmonger and tell you that we need to keep fentanyl out of the country, when Venezuela doesn't even produce any fentanyl. China is the main country that produces fentanyl, and there's absolutely nothing that the US is doing to stop them from transporting it here. It's the exact same thing that happened in Iraq. Okay, George W. Bush was claiming they had WMDs so he could invade and get all the oil, and Trump is now claiming that Venezuela produces fentanyl so that he can invade and get all the oil. Welcome back, Big W. The presidency is living on. But again, it's not because of Fent. Don't believe them when they say that, okay? Number 8, he signed an order increasing oversight over proxy firms. This is probably going to be the most boring shit you're ever going to hear, but I'm going to try to explain it fast. Proxy firms help shareholders decide how to vote in shareholder meetings. If you're invested in like 800 companies, you're not going to be able to make it to 800 shareholder meetings. So these proxy firms make it easy for you to decide how you're going to vote. They have a set of guidelines, and they read through all the boring paperwork to figure out what's generally best for the company and the shareholder. For example, if a company wants to give their CEO a huge fucking paycheck when earnings are down that quarter by 200%, they're generally going to tell you to vote no, because that's a stupid fucking idea. Company management usually hates these firms because they usually foil their plans to give CEOs huge paychecks like that. And that explains why the Wall Street Journal is posting constant opinion pieces trying to get Trump to overhaul these things. And it worked, because he has now announced that he's going to be increasing oversight of these proxy firms, as well as trying to enforce anti-fraud provisions against them. What effect is this going to have? Well, companies are going to be able to make more stupid decisions, like give their CEOs huge pay packages. The reason shareholders vote against that stuff is because it's bad for the company, and usually leadership just wants to cash out and retire instead of actually doing what's good for the longevity of the company. So the shareholders are there to vote against that, to prevent that from happening, and the proxy firms are one of the tools they use to keep the company running well. Does that make sense a little bit? If you weaken the shareholders, this stuff is going to happen way easier, which again is bad. Okay, this is a bad thing. Number 9, he scheduled a primetime address for no reason. So we had a little bit of a scare on Wednesday. In the morning, Tucker Carlson, who is obviously the most reputable source of information on the planet, said that Congress was briefed the day before on Trump declaring war on Venezuela. He said that at 9 p.m. Trump was going to announce it. And sure enough, at 9 p.m. there was an event scheduled on the president's calendar that was an address to the nation. Presidential addresses don't happen very often, okay? You usually don't get up there just to shit talk Joe Biden the entire time, which is usually something you do right before you start a war with them. In addition to all of this, photographers saw Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, pacing back and forth nervously in Trump's Oval Office, as if there was something important going on. Dude was acting pressed as fuck, like he had just put his house mortgage on a 9-leg parlay with 15 minutes left in the game. Shit was about to go down, and this was all tied together by the fact that the Epstein files were getting released at the end of the week, which made many think he was about to do something crazy to shift attention away from these files. The blockade around Venezuela, Tucker Carlson saying that there was going to be a declaration of war, Marco Rubio pacing around nervous as fuck, and the Epstein files releasing at the end of the week all made people think that this address was going to be the one where he declared war. And when 9 p.m. came, there was fucking nothing. It was a speech about nothing. He gave a 20-minute speech covered by every news channel in the goddamn country, where he just shit-talked Joe Biden for most of it and talked about what a great job he was doing, which makes no sense whatsoever, right? We're totally about to declare war on Venezuela. So what the hell happened? I have 3 different scenarios. Number 1 is it was totally all just a coincidence. Tucker Carlson was being schizophrenic as hell. Marco Rubio was worried about something else. Maybe he did put that parlay on. And Trump just wanted to give a speech about what a good job he was doing, okay? It was all just a funny coincidence. I don't think that's likely at all. Option number 2 is it was a deliberate ploy to get these outlets to cover his speech. He did the blockade, he briefed members of Congress, made everyone think he was going to declare war, and just just talked about his accomplishments the entire time in order to trick the news outlets into covering that speech. Which, I mean, would have been an okay ploy, okay? Everyone was watching that shit. And this is probably the most likely scenario. But there's one more that I want you to consider. The third scenario is that Trump was going to declare war on Venezuela, but someone talked him out of it. If you listen to the speech that he gives, his voice sounds a little bit hoarse, like he had been yelling a lot or something. That paired with Marco Rubio pacing in the Oval Office nervously, along with the blockade of oil tankers, which again, you usually only do if you're about to declare war on someone, suggests that Rubio might have convinced him at the last minute not to do it. They had a bit of a screaming match, which usually happens in Trump White Houses, and he gave some random speech that someone prepared last minute in order to avoid canceling the entire address. The second option was probably most likely. He loves trolling, but there are a lot of fights in the Trump White House, usually to stop him from doing outrageous things. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually the third option. Number 10, he dissolved one of our key climate research facilities. NCAR surprisingly has nothing to do with NASCAR. Apparently it's some climate facility in Boulder, Colorado that gives us crucial information on how climate change is affecting our planet. And without it, we're gonna have absolutely no idea what the billions of tons of fucking toxic waste we're pumping into the air has on us. Woke garbage, I know. The libs will tell you that this was a horrible event that's pushed back our understanding of science and helped the United States continue its retreat as the world's leader of scientific research, which in the past has allowed us to attract some of the smartest minds in the world, which has kept us scientifically and technologically ahead of all of our rivals. They'll also tell you that research sites like this are incredibly difficult to rebuild, and that it would take decades just to get back to the same place we were at before this research center was dissolved. Also that Trump can wage this fake war against climate change and research in order to appeal to his big oil donors that gave him $1 billion during his campaign last year. But that's what the libs will tell you. Okay, Donald Trump is saving our great nation. Ignore all that. Number 11, he signed the largest defense budget in the history of the US. The defense budget has been rising for years now. Okay, it increased a lot under Biden because of the inflation. There was no big Oval Office celebration for this one because I think Trump was pretty mad about it. It included a lot of provisions he didn't like $800 million to Ukraine over the next 2 years. It also stopped him from pulling troops out of Europe, which he's talked about doing a ton. So this was probably a situation where his people told him, hey, you need to sign this shit. And he just did. Because otherwise, I feel like you would make a big show out of the biggest defense budget ever. I feel like that would be good press. Number 12, he signed an order easing marijuana regulations. There are all these schedules we have for different drugs. The worst of the worst, totally bad, fucked up drugs are at the top, Schedule 1. Like this shit will literally fry you type drugs. And as you go down, it becomes more and more acceptable for you to use them in medical purposes. Marijuana was at the top for some reason. No one knows why. Okay, people just hated weed in the 70s or something. But you're not allowed to use it in any medical setting at all. Okay, it's banned. So in 2022, Biden said, all right, gang, pack it up. We're moving this thing down to Schedule 3. Like with anything Trump did, the courts tried to block it, and it's been stalled in court pretty much ever since. Now Trump is trying to speed up that process and get Biden's action through. And that's the order he signed. He's trying to speed up this process. Again, this isn't making weed like federally legal or anything. This is just for scientific and medical purposes. This isn't new for Trump. Okay, on the campaign trail, he was pretty pro marijuana. It's not a switch up, just another weirdly liberal position that Trump has. Number 13, he announced funding cuts for any hospital that gives children gender-affirming care. RFK Jr. said he would cut any hospital's funding that provided this care to children, even if the child wants to, even if the parents are okay with it, even if the doctor says it's perfectly fine, you're not allowed to, or else you're gonna get your Medicaid and Medicare funding cut. Gender-affirming surgery has a regret rate of less than 1% of people, whereas plastic surgery can have an up to 47% regret rate. So remember, all of these MAGA people that are taking this away are way more unhappy than the children they're trying to protect, okay? Just remember that. Number 14, he imposed sanctions on 2 more ICC judges. Remember, the International Criminal Court pursues war criminals. Not gonna name any names here. They charged Netanyahu with genocide last year, so Trump placed a ton of sanctions on them. And now they've done it for 2 more judges. Number 15, he approved an $11 billion arms sale for Taiwan, the largest ever. Trump has been pretty wishy-washy on aid to Taiwan, but pretty much everyone in Congress agrees we need to have it. They're still super important for semiconductor chips, so the aid package is supposed to deter China from wanting to invade. Number 16, he announced a pricing deal with 9 pharmaceutical companies. So Trump gathered 9 of the biggest drug makers in the United States to the Oval Office and said, hey, if you lower the prices of your drugs, we will give you a reprieve from your tariffs. This seems good, right? He's making a deal to lower drug prices using leverage that he created, okay? The tariffs weren't here a year ago. So in reality, he's just getting lower drug prices, right? But if this is so good for us and so bad for the drug makers, why did all of their stocks go up directly after this announcement? Like, what? That's fishy, right? Like, we can't both win. Either the drug prices are lower or they're not. One of us has to get fucked. Either the drug makers get fucked and they have to raise their prices, or we get fucked and the prices stay high. And the drug makers are definitely not getting fucked right now. And I'll tell you exactly why. This deal has two parts. The first part is to lower the price the government pays for drugs under Medicaid and Medicare. And the second part is to lower the prices of standalone drugs that these companies are going to sell on Trump's new service, Trump RX, that he very humbly named after himself. Any of the cuts that you see on Trump RX are pretty much completely fucking useless. And that's because 92% of people in the United States have health insurance, which means they don't buy their drugs standalone. The price they pay on their insurance premium is almost always going to be less than the price they pay on like individual drugs if they would buy them themselves. It doesn't make sense. So the drug makers are overjoyed to make price cuts on Trump RX because they know no one's gonna fucking buy anything there. They make money off of scamming the government and scamming insurance companies, okay? This is not where they cash their cows. So sure, let's ignore that. But why is the first part bad? Because that's where they're actually ripping us off, right? We need to lower the Medicaid and Medicare prices. That's important. Why are the drug makers winning there? Well, let's say you have two companies, okay? Let's say they sell missiles. Maybe Israel is getting low and the US needs to stock them up. One company is very big. They have a lot of connections. They can reach the White House pretty easily. But the other one's really small. They don't have the same connections or access to government lobbying. Well, if the president wants to lower missile prices and they only make a deal with the big company, then the small company is going to lose out massively. The big company is getting a huge advantage. And over time, that's going to hurt little companies more and more until there's no more competition left. And the big companies can just raise their prices whenever they want. Because that's how capitalism and the economy works. There's competition and that incentivizes businesses to keep their prices competitive. If there's no more competition, then those businesses can just fucking charge whatever the hell they want. Trump making deals with all of these big drug manufacturers is going to push that forward. They're thinking long term, okay? They know that this is going to be a price cut now, somewhat. But if they can get in Trump's good graces and get rid of these little guys, then they're going to be able to increase their prices to whatever they want later. Not only that, but the price cuts for Medicaid aren't even that much. We're already getting up to 80% off a lot of our drugs, so getting up to 70% off isn't really that much of a benefit. If Trump really wants to solve this problem, he should get rid of Trump RX. It's a stupid idea. Nobody buys their drugs standalone. Focus on Medicaid and Medicare and make a blanket deal with any drug company that we get drugs from under Medicare and Medicaid. That allows the small guys to get in on this too, not just the big pharmaceutical companies, and it stops that whole cycle from repeating, okay? Or you can just continue ripping us off and avoiding the core problem. That's fine too. Number 17, he renamed the Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center. What the fuck, bro? You're not him, dog. Stop trying to pretend you're him. JFK was young, beautiful, hot. He retired early. Trump is 79 years old and ugly as hell. What kind of aura do you think you need to put your name on the side of this building, bro? And finally, he set up plaques under every president's portrait where he just kind of insults them the entire time. He pretty much just wrote a Truth Social post for each president and hired someone to engrave it beneath the pictures. It has all the same vocabulary, all the same capitalization. You should talk George W. Bush too. Like, the only president he kind of glazed was Ronald Reagan. Everyone else he just completely shit talked. All right, now for our trackers. We don't really know what inflation is because not all of the data was collected in November. Trump released a number, but that's kind of useless because you're only collecting data for like half of November. So what the fuck? Why should we trust that? Unemployment is rising at 4.6%. It was 4.4 last month. Egg prices are down from a few months ago. The average price of a dozen eggs is $2.86. Gas is at $3.23, about steady. And Trump has so far spent $110,600,000 of taxpayer money playing golf in his term. That is more than twice as much as Obama spent during this same time period and more than Biden spent during his entire presidency. That's the end of another beautiful week in hell on earth. If you enjoyed, please consider becoming a patron like these wonderful people. They help make this happen. If you pay me $5 a month, I can afford 5 more scratchers every month, and then hopefully I can win it big and spend the rest at a casino in Vegas. Next week's video may come out late. I'll be on vacation, but we'll see if we can get it out on time. The video might be really shitty, so I'm just laying that out for you in advance. But thank you guys for all the nice comments. Like, actually, bro, I'm reading through these and I'm like, man, I'm actually like helping you somewhat. Like, that's the goal. I want to just consolidate all of this news into something that's hopefully a little bit funny, but also informative and like well researched. And I've been reading your suggestions. I'm taking note. In the new year, we're going to try some new stuff, hopefully get an editor, expand operations, and it's all possible because of you guys. So thank you. Seriously. I'm going to go try not to kill myself before next week. If I'm alive, I'll see you then. Okay? Take care.